MRW, up or down, balls up, balls down, POD.
Which side is the sun, man? Are we serving? Wait, which way is that?
Spin the racket.
Welcome to Spin the Racket, the recreational tennis spot, covering everything from the Pro Tour all the way down to your local tennis league. These are your hosts.
I'm G.
And I'm Lou. And today we're going to be going over a little bit of our background, get you some insight into why we started this podcast, and introduce you to a segment called Spin the Racket. And towards the end, we'll show you what's next and give you a preview of episode 2 of Spin the Racket. Stay tuned.
We're doing this. We're potting.
We are potting.
We're podcasters.
Yeah, I guess.
Or do you have to get to like episode 3 or 4 before you're like a podcaster?
No, I think it's, I think most of my conversations could be podcasts. It's just like getting the lights, camera, and action involved. Yeah. So if I recorded more of my conversations, there would probably be Life and Lou podcast.
I love it.
A lot of in-depth conversations about stuff that a lot of people maybe care or don't care. Yeah, so, we're going to be going over a little bit of our personalities, background. We want to introduce ourselves. Lou and G and Lou, G, tell me more about yourself.
What don't you know, Luis? That's the question.
Give me your elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch?
Yeah,
all right,
30 seconds. Who's G?
I'll keep it short. I'm Gerard. I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. That's where I was born. But spent most of my formative years in Columbia, South Carolina. My parents lived there, brother and sister. Did grade school. That's where I first learned how to play tennis, was in Columbia. It's super hot, super humid, but a good place to grow up. Went to college at Davidson in North Carolina. Go Cats. That's where Steph Curry went, Steph Curry with the shot. We weren't friends, but I knew who he was, obviously, wave on campus.
I think everybody knows who Steph Curry is.
I hope so. He's a good guy. But yeah, I, after college, moved to Atlanta, and I guess that was maybe 12, 13 years ago, which is crazy to think about. And I kind of just got lucky that Atlanta was a big tennis city and super easy to kind of get into the sport here in the community. Been enjoying the ATL life for a good bit.
So you mentioned that that you got started in Columbia, South Carolina.
Yeah.
What got you into tennis?
Yeah, it's funny. I started playing when I was 11 years old, and this was like 2001 time period. So I remember watching tennis with my parents. Like, my mom loved watching tennis on TV. And during that time, Serena and Venus were like dominating the sport. So it was kind of
cool. You said
cool.
It was 2001?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's kind of when I first started. And yeah, Serena and Venus were just like in every final, basically, like Wimbledon, US Open, whatever. Like, they were just crushing the game. And I think that's what drew us in originally as a black family, kind of like, oh, wow, we're seeing these two women just like completely control this sport. And it was fun to watch. And I was like, I kind of want to play this. This is kind of a cool sport, like, I don't know. I tried like baseball and basketball and all that. And like, it was cool, but like, it didn't really speak to me. And so I was like, let's give tennis a shot.
Why do you still play it? I mean, to this day.
Yeah, I just love the individual aspects of the game. Like, you can still be a part of a team, right? You can join a league and play with other people and have a good time, but it's still on you as the player. You get to go out and kind of control your destiny in some sort of way. And I think there's a ton of different other aspects to it, from like the health and longevity and the wellness pieces, which I love. But it's like a social thing for me now. And like, my communities in Atlanta have been built around tennis. Like, everything that I do is shaped by tennis, for better or worse.
Yeah. How'd you meet Gerard? Oh, well, tennis, like, yeah.
Literally.
Right.
Yeah. It's just all through that.
Yeah. It's a great way to connect, right?
Yeah.
What leagues do you currently play in? And then how much tennis do you play, on let's just say on a weekly basis?
It's probably, it's dwindled in the last couple of years. Like, I would say, like, back in the day, like, when I first moved to Atlanta, I was literally in like 4 different leagues. I was doing like Alta, USTA, like Red Hair, T2. I was just like literally playing tennis almost every day of the week. Now it's probably more of like maybe once or twice a week I can get out there. but I'm still doing Alta, still doing USTA leagues. So just mostly just those kind of bigger competitions, trying to play those weekly matches out there.
Interesting. That's something we're going to be discussing, right? Like how there are some other leagues that are not USTA that in some areas are a little bit more prominent.
Right. I think Alta is like the largest recreational tennis league in the country too, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, the more you know. So I think lastly, before we hand it over, just we wanted to have a little bit of a fun question, and we come up with this one. Would you rather have no forehand or no serve? Like, let's just say, and by no, we mean like, let's just say completely undependable, right? Like you obviously still have to have one of those shots to be able to play the game. Like imagine if you couldn't serve. Yeah, you can't start the point, but let's say you have a really crappy forehand or a really crappy serve. Which one would you rather have?
I think probably no forehand. Like I feel like the serve is so important, to start the point. And if I could have like a John Isner serve or something
So
like
you'd
that,
rather be like a serve bot.
Yeah, just like go out there, like win some quick points, or like, you're down a break point, you want to serve with a big ace. Like that'd be kind of cool to have. And like I could, run around the forehand and maybe hit a little backhand or something.
So your serve plus one would be serve plus backhand winner. Interesting.
It's just different. It's different. Maybe a little serve and volley or something. But yeah, I'm gonna go no forehand.
No forehand. Okay.
Yeah,
Interesting.
But tell me about you, Luis. Obviously, like you've been around here for a bit in the tennis game. Like, how did you get your start? Like, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, let me give you my elevator pitch, right? So I'm 30 years old. My name's Luis Arana. Was born and raised in Venezuela, South America. Came to the U.S. when I was 15 years old. I got started with tennis kind of around the same age, right? So I'm a little bit younger than you are. I got started around 10 years old. For me, it was kind of a tentative sport. I didn't know, kind of like grew up playing a lot of different sports, kind of settled into playing soccer, or for my listeners, football. That was my sport. I mean, I think any person in the world can relate to that. Like soccer is a universal sport. So I was just like, yeah, let's follow along with that. But, how I got started with tennis is interesting. I got started a little bit later than you did, but obviously I'm a little bit younger. I started playing in 2007 when this was like peak Roger era, right? So right. Roger in 2007 feels like he won almost everything. Just like something about Roger in 2007 and 2017 just like goated, right? So my dad's always been a sports fan. Somehow, he would keep up with he liked the Roger Rafa rivalry, and so I just kind of started sitting down and watching some of the matches, and I thought it was like really cool. And just the way that Roger flowed on court, it was just like, to me, I had, little kid, didn't really understand a lot of the sport, but I could feel the aura. And I was like, wow, this guy's got it. Like I was obviously, as many kids, I started playing and I wanted to emulate my game to be like Rogers, right?
That's pretty cool.
Fun. Long story short, I realized even though I loved Rogers' game, Rafa's game worked better with me. So I actually, as much as I was like, hey, I'm a big Roger fan, I have to play more like Rafa. Like my body, just the way that I played in general, it just worked better. So it was a little bit of a dilemma, and like kind of broke my, my little dream of like wanting to become like Roger. But it's also started respecting the Rafa grind, right?
Yeah. I was sensing a bit of that Roger kind of GOAT mentality over here. Like, but you dropped in Rafa there, so maybe I don't know.
Yeah, if I had to pick, obviously I feel like Roger to me is like the GOAT, but I have a lot of respect for Rafa at the same time. Same with Novak. Like for anyone that's on tour, it's like it's a lot of hours. It can be really lonely. Like I can understand. So anybody that's been on tour for, as long as they have been, like, you got to do something different. You got to be different. You're just built different.
Yeah. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But obviously you've been playing for a while. Like, why do you stick to the sport? Like, why keep playing tennis?
Yeah, we might be able to go into this a little bit later on, but I quit tennis for 10 years. I quit when I was 17, just kind of typical junior burnout. And, we know this is as much as it is fun, is a really difficult sport to play. And so yeah, that really gave me a hiatus. I came back because it's the sport that I've always been the best at. And yeah, so originally I started playing tennis kind of tentatively. And then at some point, I just basically cold turkey my way out of like soccer. I got frustrated with team sports. That was the whole reason why I said, you know what, tennis is going to be my sport because I get to be the judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah.
And all the pressure's on me, but I don't have to depend on anybody else. I mean, love it for what it is, hate it for what it is, but it's tennis, right? If you're playing singles. Still play because of kind of multifactorial, right? So it's the social aspect of it, the connection piece, like, you know, building for friendships, and then longevity is a huge role for me. So it's my one activity that keeps me active. Like, I hate running. I dislike running. I run a 5K a year just to see where I am at. But I get bored very easily. And with tennis, I could be out there for 3-4 hours, not really feel it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's definitely the biggest thing for me. It's my cardio, my way of staying active. And I know I can do that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that's why I still do it.
That's awesome. What leagues are you playing these days?
Well, I play on your Alta team. I got recruited to your Alta team.
Yeah.
And then we actually met playing USTA summer and winter, which is the most brutal part, playing summer and winter with USTA. I think winters you play in the morning, which is like the coldest, and summers you play in the afternoon, which is the hottest. I'm like, why do we have to do this? So far, yeah, just us two. You know, I have to throttle my time with tennis because I've realized as the older I get, the more it requires like recovery from me. So it's really easy to stretch yourself thin and be like, oh, you know, you kind of mentioned a little bit of that, right? Like, yeah, I play too much and then I kind of scale it back. So kind of the same thing.
That's awesome. And so the question for you,
I'm waiting for
if
it.
you had to pick, would you rather have no forehand or no serve?
I would rather have no serve. And
Okay.
that's coming from like someone who grew up traditionally like having a big serve. But I realized like if I can't close out the point, then, you know, like I could underhand serve. And if I have a solid forehand,
Yeah.
you know, and backhand, like I could grind my way out of points, you know, versus like if I can't, I'd rather just start out the point, let's say defensively, and then just like find my way up to a neutral spot, then figure out a way to win. I feel like I have a lot more respect for people that can like outplay somebody and outmaneuver somebody than like, yeah, if you have a big serve, like, yeah, it's going to be a little bit easier to start, but I get it. Like most of tennis is serving, right? Like we see the statistics, how having a big serve helps you along the way. So different answer, but I think, you know, at the end of the day, your answer makes a lot of sense. My answer makes sense to me at least. But yeah, it's an interesting one. So yeah, with that, let's just segue into why we started this podcast, right? Like how this whole thing came about.
You know, it came to me in a dream one day. No, I'm kidding.
Well, this whole thing started because you reached out to me and you said, hey, you know, I have this idea, right? Tell me a little bit more about how long this has been brewing, because you've told me a little bit, but I don't think I know in depth like how far along, because you've mentioned you drop hints like, yeah, like 3 years ago, I almost did this. And I was like, gee, how long has this been in your mind?
Yeah, I'd say it's probably been more of a serious idea since like 2020. Which is like 5 years ago, which sounds like a long time ago. But if you remember,
5 years is a long time. Yeah.
It's a long time. But like, you know, that period obviously was COVID, right? And so we're all inside, nothing else to do but think and come up with ideas. And I'm a big idea guy. So I was just thinking at the time, like, I love podcasts in general. So like any kind of podcast, true crime, like Serial, all the way to like comedy podcasts, or political, whatever. And I just felt like there wasn't a ton of tennis podcasts out there. Like there was a few different ones, but they were just centered on the pros and talking about, you know, what's going on tour. I know there's like this popular one now with Andy Roddick, Served, you know, which covers the pro tour as well. But there's still like a big gap, I felt, in terms of, you know, there's nothing else just for the everyday player, for the people that we're playing against on these leagues and just
right.
with,
It's
you know?
it feels like it's a lot of the pros are offering their take on the pro tour,
Exactly.
which is, I mean, it's great. I think that's awesome that we're seeing what a pro is thinking, because all of the times what you get to hear the pros say, it's like during that press conference, and it's like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's pretty, they're tired. They're going through the tournament. They're not really giving like their full take on something as like, hey, you know, what worked? Well, I did the right things, and you know, I guess I played a little bit better than he or she did, and it's like, all right, cool, but like, let me think about like, you know, what's Andy Roddick thinking? What's the other, Sam Curry and Steve Johnson and
Isner, they have like the
Jack Sock and oh my gosh, John Isner. Yeah, they have the other pod too. So it's like, all right, that's great. But you're right. There's no like kind of pod for the people by the people kind of thing.
Yeah, just topics that we would find to be super relevant and meaningful, and also just spoken by folks who are playing tennis day in, day out. You know, like I feel like the pros can.
They got a 9 to 5.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. We have
that's most people, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like the pros can cover the pros really well, obviously, but we're, you know, the everyday folks playing, so we can probably cover that a little bit better. So I feel like that was kind of missing, and part of it's just timing too. And I feel like I didn't find the right co-host until I met you, Lou, and here we are.
Yeah. So how do we meet? You remember?
Well, you know, you.
I kind of teased it. You know?
Tease it.
Yeah. We met. Well, you want to go?
You tell the story. You
So,
tell it better.
I mean, obviously, first time I met you. So I moved to Atlanta back in 2023, 23. Back in 23, February of 23. I didn't know anyone, and this is why tennis is like such a cool sport. You know, I like found like a Facebook group in Atlanta area players or whatever,
that's how you do
and
it.
I posted like, hey, you know, this is my level, this is where I play, you know, like, hey, can anybody like help me find a team or something? And Tim Maldonado is the one that obviously commented on my post, and he was like, yeah, hit me up, come play, whatever. And then my first time hitting in Atlanta was with Jody, a co-captain of that team with Tim, and this was their Alta AA2 team, I think. And I was like, oh man, I hadn't been playing in a little bit, and I was like, man, these guys are good. So obviously I couldn't join that season, but then I played with, they were like, hey, we also play USTA. Let's have you join that team as well. We play USTA during the summer. We're doing Alta I think it was in the spring. They did Alta, I think USTA summer came around, and I remember showing up for my match, and I saw you playing, and I was like, wait, so who, like, I didn't know anybody. So I'm like, who are our guys? And then it was like, I think you came out of there and you're like, hey, you know, I'm Gerard, and like whoever else was playing with you, I don't remember. One thing that struck me is like, you were very nice. You're a very nice guy, and everybody that I introduce you to or meet you, you're always like, oh, he's so nice. So yeah, that's how we met. We started playing in the same USTA team. And then you recruited me to your Alta team as well. So now we're playing USTA and Alta together. That was the original thing, right? And then it's just been, you know, little by little, just, again, it's crazy how like it starts like a tennis friendship, and then it can turn into like so much more, right? Like you've been here in the Atlanta area for so much longer. So I just feel like you know everybody.
Maybe not everybody, but
I feel like you're a person that gets involved, and I feel like tennis has been one of those things. It's just another channel for you to just expand, right, and get to know a lot of people. I've gotten to know a lot of people that if it weren't for tennis, I don't think I'd know half the people that I know in Atlanta.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's definitely worked out pretty well. And yeah, obviously you've had a lot of experience just with the tech stuff and other podcasts and shows.
Yeah, I do have a bit of I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, right? So I have a background in a little bit of music production, and I've done part of the marketing and the video branding for a couple of companies that I work with. And so, this whole rig that we have set up is like my my brainchild or whatever. But so I think we're matching, the technical skill. You obviously had the vision, right? I would say that, if everybody asked me, like, you have the vision of the pod, I'm here to help you execute and organize and make sure that we deliver, right?
Yeah.
And then offer my tech wherever I can. And as far as you want to give everybody kind of an idea of what kind of topics we're going to cover, maybe you preview some of the things that we have in mind.
Sure.
Share the vision.
I think it's. I feel like this is kind of the podcast for recreational tennis players. You know, you said it in the intro. I think it's something that just everyone who's playing tennis, no matter your skill level, age, background, whatever,
or even if you're not playing tennis, right? Like you want to get into it.
Exactly. Yeah. For an intro to the sport. And it's just, I want to make sure we cover everything from, fitness to nutrition to, what are we doing about pickleball versus tennis and like
dropping a hint there.
Yeah. Like anything that's relevant to folks, whether it's like rackets or string, like, so technology, equipment, everything under the sun as it relates to playing the sport that we love, I think is on the table, and can even be anything around cultural elements. And like, obviously we'll have fun with it throughout, but I think it'll be very relatable to everyone.
We're definitely going to be covering topics from a practical standpoint, try to like just, distill it down to, hey, I want to get started with tennis, or, hey, I want to get better. Like, what are some actual things that someone can like listen to this pod and say, hey, I'm going to go try these 1 to 3 things that they talked about that I can focus on for my next week or so on, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's huge because there are so many there's so much content. It's an overload of content nowadays. And it's like, where do you even start? Like how can you follow a progression? How do you progress?
Yeah, exactly.
So, all right, great. So with that, I think we're going to go on to our next segment, which is called Spin the Racket. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, honestly, I don't know. We kind of debated this for a good bit, right? Like, what do we call it? We call it the spin, or do we call it like spin it and win it? Like, I don't know, right? There were so many ways to add the whole spin thing, serve and return, right? Like, so really what it's going to be, it's we're essentially going to have a question, right? Or some sort of statement that we either have to agree with or go against. And we're going to spin the racket. Whoever wins the spin gets to decide whether they're serving or returning, or in this case, going for the topic, or, going against the topic, and so on. And my understanding is we have 2 to 3 minutes for initial positions, then 5 to 7 minutes for a back and forth debate here, see if we can argue it out, and then
a little volley situation.
Yeah, we either come to a conclusion or we agree to disagree.
Yes. I feel like we'll come to a conclusion.
Yeah. We're pretty agreeable people.
I think so.
Yeah. All right. So with that, you want to go ahead and spin the racket? That's a head.
Lovely head racket. Is this?
Yeah.
That's
the Speed Pro. Yeah. That's the.
Okay.
I mean, some people would say it's a Djokovic racket.
Yeah.
It's the racket that gave me wrist pain.
So we got with the head racket, you got the up or down.
I guess it's arrow up or arrow down. Yeah, it depends on the brand, right? So I'm gonna go arrow up.
Well, you can see it.
It's arrow down.
It's arrow down?
It's arrow down.
Oh,
so you get to pick whether you want to go for or against the topic. You want to introduce the topic as well?
I will introduce the topic. The topic for this segment is, should Wimbledon change?
And this is funny because we're actually recording this episode while the Wimbledon men's final is being played right now. Alcaraz and Sinner are playing, which is like... You're trying to get distracted by the score. We're actually trying to record this stuff. But...
yeah, so it's very timely, but obviously, to your point, 2 weeks of Wimbledon. It's a very, very traditional tournament. They have a lot of rules and customs that they've developed over the years. And the question is, should they change? Should Wimbledon change anything as it relates to their traditions and customs? Position A will be yes, they should change. And B will be no, they shouldn't change. I won the toss, or that's the racket, I should say. Spin the racket. I will go with position B. No.
No, they shouldn't change. Okay, interesting. I thought you would go for position A. Had me tricked there, Yeah, you just had me. All right, cool.
The benefit of winning that spin there.
All right, so I guess because you won, I get to decide who starts. That's how we're going to do it, right?
That's how the racket works. Yeah, so let's do that.
All right, so I will go ahead and say I'll start. Okay. I'll decide that I'll start. And there's a few things, right? I know we were kind of debating the whole what aspect would we want Wimbledon to change? Like, do we want to keep it that broad, or do you want to kind of hone into a particular thing we want changed or not changed, I'll bring up a couple of things. I think it's weird that they don't announce the players. Like they just kind of walk out. And that's why I know it's very purist and all that, but I think there's nothing wrong with just announcing the players a little bit. I will say I am for the all white. Like, as much as people want to, like, that's been controversial through the years. Like, oh, you've got a sliver of color, and like that becomes like a huge deal. Like, I don't mind the all white look. So, particularly, I don't know that should change. But should we add flexibility? Maybe like an off white would be cool. Like if it's introduced, but then like I just feel like you open a whole can of worms there. You know what I mean? Like it's either all white or no. Nothing at all, because then it's like, oh, it can only be 20% off white or whatever. And it's like,
Right.
Dude, it just, but regardless. Yeah. So the whole introductory piece, like, I think they should, introduce the players a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And then recently we saw during this tournament, right? I believe Djokovic had a pretty nasty fall, and he had a pretty nasty fall. I read that also Sinner had a pretty nasty fall as well. I did not see it. I didn't see it, but I did see the Djokovic fall. And I mean, these are two of the best movers on tour, right? That are like just eating it on grass. So, I mean, we've known that grass is kind of a tricky surface. It's probably the trickiest to play on when it comes to the pro tour. But, it's still limited to where, these guys, and for those of you that don't know, like there are special shoes that they wear on grass. They have like little like, they're almost like cleats, but they're not cleats because they're they can't have like actual spikes, but they're like little like plastic spikes that they have under their soles. But the regulation states that they can only have spikes on the outsole, on the bottom of the shoe. So you cannot see any spikes anywhere on like the medial part of the shoe or any on the outside of the shoe. It can only be at the bottom. And so that creates a problem, because a lot of these, let's just be honest, a lot of these guys are using the entire shoe for traction, and they're when they're picking up and changing directions, they're using, and we do it too at a recreational level. Sometimes you're dragging a foot, sometimes you're pushing off, you're not really like, fully there. You're using the side of the shoe to push off. And if we look at the hardcore shoes, they do have that rubber goes all the way up to the medial part to protect from like toe draggers, people that are sliding, and people that are like really pushing off with the side of the shoe. So my thing is like, why not just change it so they can have spikes on the sides of the shoes, right? Or coming up to a certain degree, so that when they're pushing off, they actually have a little bit more grip and they don't just like eat it, right? Because I think I just saw a video by Patrick Mouratoglou, and he was like, well, it seems like Wimbledon is prioritizing the tradition over the safety of the players. So that's just my angle. Just a couple of things. What are your thoughts? Why not?
Well, I'll give the position on why not. I think for me, Wimbledon obviously is a very prestigious tournament. Folks, we think about the Grand Slams. A lot of folks say, hey, Wimbledon's the favorite. Wimbledon's the top. Like, if I could win one, it's definitely going to be that. And I think it's a lot of the traditions that make it prestigious. It's the all white. It's the fact that it is on grass, and the only tournament that's played like that as a Grand Slam, and how many years it's been around, and how tight they are on the tradition. And you have the royal family comes and watches, and there's like there's a lot of little things like that, customs that make it pretty special. And yes, tournaments should evolve in some aspects, but I think that I like the fact that they stay true to some of their core traditions. The all white rule, like for years, I feel like there's been a lot of like pushback on that, and they've said, hey, this is something that differentiates us amongst all other tournaments. And like, I love that they have stayed true to that. I think that you think of the strawberries and cream, for example, like that's like a huge thing with Wimbledon. Like, I think I read something about like 140,000 pounds of strawberries.
Oh, I bet. I bet
they distribute for that, which is crazy. That's just something that, again, that's like, it's built into that aura of Wimbledon. And you think about the queue, for example, in terms of how folks can go and watch matches and buy those unreserved tickets. I think that seeing that over the years and how people get excited about camping out, hours before the tournament. Like, even though it sounds kind of outdated and like you should be able to just buy a ticket online like everyone else does, it still kind of brings that, if you're a real true tennis fan and you have that passion for the game, like I would definitely go out there and camp, 12 hours before. I would. I mean,
would. I just saw a short of somebody like that did it and spent they went there like so early that I think it was by like 2 or 3 o'clock. They were like dozing off. So I don't know that I would. And I'm bad when it comes to those things. I'd rather like save up for like 3 years and go and like just buy like a ticket where I just go and get the full experience. And then again, that's my definition of a full experience. I've been to. It reminds me a little bit of the Augusta Masters, the Golf Masters. So I've been to that tournament, and it's sort of the same thing. It's like very old school. Like they still do like a raffle and all that stuff. They do a queue. Like it's a whole thing. It's a big tradition, and to have that 2 hours away from here, from Atlanta, it's kind of cool. But I'm thinking, these are the traditional tournaments, right? Like, people respect the tradition, the prestige, like the history of the tournament. And so, yeah, I feel like when I gave my take on it, like I kind of agreed with you, which kind of sucks because I'm supposed to go against. And this is going to be, guys, this is going to be one of the interesting things about this, this segment is that I may completely disagree with the topic, but if I don't get the spin and Gerard decides I have to go, I have to go for the topic, then I have to figure out the positive, right, of whatever topic we decide to come up with. So this is kind of, highlighting that everything has is twofold, right? Or it has a foil. Like there's always a pro and a con to anything. It just depends on how you're looking at it. So sometimes, we're going to have to look at it from a point of view that we may not even agree with just to understand what the other perspective is.
Exactly. Wimbledon's made some changes over the years. Like, for example, this year's the first year they're using the electronic line system. So they got rid of all the umpires, apart from the chair umpire, of course. So that is using this electronic line system to do all the calls. And so, like, even that I feel like is a positive change. They're moving in.
Isn't Roland Garros like still like non-electronic or whatever? Like that's like a running joke, right? Like they still like they still will make bad calls.
Yeah, which like. And that maybe that's another topic for another day. I kind of like that they still do it that way. It has a little bit of drama, of course, involved. When you see like the player arguing with the umpire, I get like, a little excited by that. But at the same time, if it's like on a big point and it can potentially disrupt the course of a match, like that's what I'm like, oh, maybe they should go electronic. But I digress.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this, like I understand, like I respect the history of the tournament. I respect the prestige. I think like if you ask any pro level player and any player that probably plays tennis, if they had to choose one Grand Slam to win or one tournament to win, like I feel like 90+% of them would say Wimbledon, including myself. Like I've seen so many, like, Tennis TV will do those sort of interviews with players on tour, and like, everybody says Wimbledon. It's like that's the one thing you grew up dreaming to win, right? Like unless you're like I don't know, a severe Rafa fan and maybe like you grew up in Spain or something like that where like, oh, I want to win Roland Garros. But even then, I feel like just Wimbledon takes the cake 9 times out of 10.
For sure. So if our Wimbledon, tournament organizers are listening, then it's, hey, don't change. Keep doing you.
Yeah, just maybe be a little bit more flexible around the whole like footwear situation. I mean, just from a safety perspective, like, I mean, the spikes will still be white. Like the shoes entirely white. So I get the whole, like, you don't want to be looking like, you're going like, I don't know, like trekking, like it can make the shoe, because the bottom of the shoe is like really spiky. So I imagine it would hurt like the silhouette or whatever of the shoe. But it's like, I mean, you got to prioritize the safety of the players. And then luckily nothing happened to Novak and Yannick, they were still able to perform. But like, that fall that Djokovic had, like I replay that 3 times and I could just feel like I have tight hips, and I just saw that, and how mobile that guy is, right? Like he has huge mobility, and to see him like get into such an awkward position, I would have snapped some.
Yeah, you'd be cooked.
I'd be so cooked.
I feel like, I mean, obviously I think they're probably thinking about the turf too and the grass, and like if they put spikes on the side, shoot, maybe that like even
Yeah, I
further
mean,
damages.
like I got to see the first practice. I didn't know that like basically the champion for the previous year gets to schedule the first practice on center court and traditions. Yeah, so Carlos brought Novak on court and they recorded the whole thing. And dude, it's ridiculous how pristine that grass is. Like before the tournament starts, it's like it looks like AI generated. You know what I mean? Like it looks too perfect. Like I was like, this is nuts because I'm used to seeing it, second week of the tournament. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, it's kind of like, what's that tournament? Halle, I think, in Germany. Like that grass is a little beat up. And I'm like, all right, yeah, that's more like it. But then like when I saw it there, I was like, wow, that's insane. But to your point, yeah, it's going to damage the grass probably a little bit more. But I don't know. Are we going for optics or are we going for like safety, right? So I feel like you can't go against that one. Like when safety gets involved, I feel like everything just like, leaves the chat. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm sure these couple faults will have some sort of ripple effect into what they decide to do. And we'll see. We'll see what happens with the regulations.
Well, I know we have a ton of topics coming up here. I'm really excited about the next one. So like episode 2.
You want to tell us what the next one is? That where you're going with
Can
this?
I do that? Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, sounds like you're really eager to.
I'm just bubbling over here.
Oh yeah.
So everyone talks about this tennis versus pickleball, and there's this extreme turf war that's going on with the two because oftentimes pickleballers will be on tennis courts. You'll see these lines everywhere on tennis courts, like the tape that they have cordoned off and such, or even if they're trying to like play tennis and reserve a court, sometimes there'll be pickleballers on the court that you're trying to reserve. And so like there's this battle between the two.
You think there is a battle?
I think there's a battle. And I got to figure out like, is there a way for the two to coexist, or is it that, pickleball is cannibalizing tennis in a way? But I feel we have to go into that.
There's a lot going on. When I feel like one versus the other might be an oversimplification, and this would probably be a topic we're going to expand on quite simply, probably over and over. Like we've just, I know you mentioned the words turf war. Like that is an idea that we have for a segment. If you're watching or listening to this, like we want you to engage with our content, so feel free to comment and let us know what you think. But we're thinking of setting this up as a segment of the podcast, just calling it Turf Wars, because let's be honest, it's not just pickleball, right? There's also padel. Padel is making it. I mean, there's a lot of different things going on that influence or that affect tennis. Tennis as a cultural movement, as a sport, as its infrastructure, right? Because some of this tennis courts are being converted to pickleball. And so there's definitely a lot of things happening, and that may be creating friction. But yeah, we're going to go a little bit more in depth on that in episode 2. And that might be just like an ongoing thing where we grab like two kind of competing sports or situations and we kind of pit them against each other. It's a little bit different from Spin the Racket, where, Gerard and I are basically finding the pros and the cons of a particular topic. This would be, no, these topics are clashing, right? Like
Yep.
Tennis and pickleball are clashing. They are, like you said, you used the word cannibalizing. There's just a lot happening between the two. I don't think one exists without the other. So there's a codependency there, but it's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? And
I know.
yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that. Now, we talked about engagement. Where can our listeners and viewers find us?
We are on all the socials, Instagram, TikTok. Check us out, Spin the Racket. You'll see our handles. Go follow us. We'll be dropping some videos and some shorts,
Are we putting this on Spotify? Yeah, we're putting this on Spotify. So yeah, we're going to try to hit every single media outlet. What about X? I'm not a big X user.
I've dabbled in it over the years. Let's give it a shot.
All right. Well, you can take care of that for us.
Yeah.
I'm still a fan of Twitter.
That's what, I mean,
Big
departure.
departure.
I mean,
yeah.
X, but like I call
X
it Twitter.
rough. All right. Well, this was episode 1 of Spin the Racket.
More to come.
Yeah, the recreational tennis pod.
I'm G.
And I'm Lou.
See you next time.